So welcome, Larysa. My friends, what just occurred right now is a perfect example of what I'm about to tell you about. Have any of you ever had a situation where you, for all the effort you put into something, you didn't get done what you planned on or hoped? You had brain blocks, things got in the way, it just did not come together. This is my relationship with the postal mail. I just can't seem to get things into the post office. It's too many steps involved. An email, you type, you send. A letter, you have to write it, print it, find an envelope, put it in the envelope, seal the envelope, find the address, write the address, find the zip code, put your own stamp on, get a postage stamp, go put it in the mailbox. Too many things. Possibly find parking at the post office. So I had a best friend that I was creating a package for. And I kept adding things to it, thinking it was not perfect yet. I'll wait until it's ready. Well, 3 years later, she came to visit, and I just gave it to her in person instead. So I recently created a project for myself that had me mailing about 100 to 200 letters to some of my favorite people in the world. So I definitely had motivation to get them out. A lot of them were already addressed. A lot of the steps were already done. But it was tax season, and that was difficult for me to follow through. But then they were just sitting there waiting. But I just had this feeling there were going to be too many problems I would run into. I was correct. I first went to Chaplin, Connecticut's post office, and I met a wonderful lady who I bet you anything is a lovely wife and mother, probably gives delightful hugs. Maybe a little bit different than some of us. For example, her eyes did not sit in their sockets in a sort of forward manner. And it almost makes me wonder if perhaps her eyes were confused in the way it seemed her information was confused. Because I asked about sending some of the letters internationally. I was enclosing magnets. Would that be a problem with any scanning or anything? And her answer was something like this. Oh, yes, we can do. Yes, it's fine. No problem, no problem. Yes, we can do, but we don't do. Yes, we can do that, but not that. But we can do that, but we don't do that. After quite an exchange, I just decided I'm not really sure what you do. I'm not sure if you are sure what you do. So I'm just going to mail my letters elsewhere. On to the store's post office. I call them confident, but a bit misleading. There were about 3 people there. They tried to explain things to me. I don't know if any of you have encountered this, but apparently some letters can be unmachinable. This can be if they don't fit that little slot that they have, if it's fatter than a certain amount, or here's the catch, if it's unevenly distributed. If you have just a letter, that's fine, but if you have business cards, that might make it uneven thickness, and as it goes through the rollers, it could rip. I did not know this. So, I also thought I was just going to give this to them, and they would stamp it, whatever they do, send it on their way. Oh no, they said, we're not going to go through all that. We're going to give you stamps, you go home and do it. But there were so many different options. Now I had to re-separate them. Machinable American, machinable non-American, non-machinable American, and non-machinable non-American, all of which had different stamps. But I had to go home first and count them, then come back and get the appropriate stamps, then go back home, stamp them, then bring them back. So the next post office I happened to be near was in Brooklyn, Connecticut. Now, these were country folk, my kind of people. The hair was like windblown, like they had just come in from milking a cow. Nice, relaxed. I figured it wouldn't be too busy. In the end, there was quite a line behind me. I did not mean to cause such a fuss, but it happened that way. So she informed me about this special stamp you put on for the non-machinable. So for the American non-machinable, all I had to do was put that on. And I verified. I like to ask things multiple times. Okay, so for the non-machinable American, I put this one penguin stamp on and it gets sent off. Yes, she said, that's correct. I repeated myself. Okay, just the one stamp. That's all I need. She confirmed this. Something just didn't feel right. I think it was because the receipt was too low. It just seemed like it couldn't be non-machinable at an extra cost for that price. So I go on to Willimantic, This is near my home. I actually would have preferred to go elsewhere, but they were all closing at that time of day, so I had to go where there were some questionable people. I don't know what they were smoking, I just know it wasn't quite right. So I go in there, and she informs me that it sounds like someone down the line didn't want to wait on me and do the stamping as it was meant to happen. So at this point, I have American machinable, international machinable, American non-machinable, all ready to go, or so I think. And I'm going to have to give her the international non-machinable. As it turns out, the American non-machinable did not just need the one penguin sticker. It needed the whole other forever stamp plus the penguin sticker. So while she was taking the international non-machinable and doing her thing with it, which did require the weighing and the special stamping, I was furiously putting the new planet stamps on my American non-machinable. Now thankfully I was finished before she was, but it was quite the ordeal. But I cannot tell you the amount of relief I have that this is now out of my house. Because sometimes when these things hang over your head, it just weighs on you whether you recognize it or not. And I find no matter how much I put in to trying to get this done, things just kept getting in my way. And what it teaches me is that when you've got a task, thankfully this wasn't time sensitive, you gotta build in more time. That's why I call things Larysa time, because we know that you don't know what can go wrong. You can suddenly have your shoe become untied or unglued, whatever, a zipper, button pops off. I just say build in more time than you think. If you ever get the chance to watch the PBS special ADD and Loving It, they talk about that. You think it'll just take this set amount of time to get there, you forget the walking into the building, the parking, the going to the bathroom, fiddling with your phone, all the things that could happen. So build in more time when you can. Maybe you all know this and it's just me that needs to learn it, but for any of you who might have children with ADHD, this hopefully will be a helpful notion to share with them. Mental Toastmasters.